Hello, this is Erad, and so in today's video I wanted to talk about the recent changes that were announced for Star Citizen that are going to come with the much anticipated Star Citizen Alpha 4.0, which is, if everything is going as planned, going to be tested by the end of this year, but will probably come online next year. And so on my second channel I've reacted to the latest Road to 4.0 video, in which I was absolutely mind blown by the scale of what they are working on. We're talking about interiors for virtually any building of interest, or perhaps potentially any building at all. And so I wanted to deep dive a little more on how that is going to be possible and what is going to entail for us, the players, in terms of gameplay, but also on how we will experience Star Citizen as a whole. So, first things first. We learned at the end of this episode from the mouth of Jared himself that this is something that they have already started production with. So the concepts that we saw are right now in production as I am making this video. They are making these concepts into actual games assets, which gives you an idea of just how fast the team is capable of working compared to how things used to be run in the past. And this, in my opinion, relates to how Chris Roberts once said that as soon as we'll have full persistence and then server meshing, they will be able to open the floodgates of content. And this is exactly what they are going to be doing with those building interiors, which are, in my opinion, going to be mind-blowing by their sheer diversity, but also quantity. And the reason why we are going to have our mind blown can be summed up in two words: server meshing. You see, until now, building interiors at such large scale would have never been possible to make. Just dreaming about it would have been futile, because we have been pushing the servers to their limits for years now, to the point that they had to remove content to then add new content for us to have a somewhat playable experience. So adding building interiors on a large scale with actual gameplay and NPC live within would just have been an impossible task. However, with full persistence and then server meshing, it becomes possible, because with server meshing, the game will no longer have to stream into every single area that's been created for players to go to. Instead, players will be able to seamlessly transit from one server to another, and the beauty of it is that each planet, each city, each area, and yes, you guessed it, each building can be its own server. Of course, there could be millions of buildings in the game, or possibly on one single planet, so they won't be opening millions of servers just for that. The plan is to have a new server open if somebody goes to an area that didn't have a player before, and once that area is empty because the players would have gone, then the server would shut down. Otherwise, it would just cost CIG a fortune to just run the game. Still, with replication layer and full persistence, if a player then returns to this building, they will be able to experience the changes and possibly the mess that another player would have made a couple of hours or days before. But all of that is just backend related. Players, however, will be able to have access to gameplay and functionalities that would otherwise not have been possible. Functionalities that we have been waiting for many years, such as player-owned habitations, for example, which will act as our homes in Star Citizen, where we will be able to store some of our gear, clothes, and maybe some souvenirs and memorabilia from previous experiences in the game that we'll be able to experience. It will be a place where maybe we'll be able to conduct some business as well, because everything will be physicalized in the game. So if you want to trade objects that you really don't want to lose because you might lose your ship or you might be killed, then this could be very practical. But it's not just about having our own homes in Star Citizen, it's also where NPCs will have their homes too. So if you're looking at for an NPC in particular, maybe you will have access to their address and you'll have to find where they live, which could open up to a lot of gameplay opportunities for investigation mission or bounty hunting missions. We will also have commercial interiors such as production facilities or offices, which could also be home to infiltration gameplay, like the type of gameplay we saw in 2019 CitizenCon, wherein we saw a situation in which we were shown a player infiltrating a facility to then gain access to a datapad. The way I see it is that offices could be used the same way as residential areas could be used as player homes. Think of, for example, player-owned organizations. These office building interiors could be home to the headquarters of these organizations, where players will be able to manage their org's finances or member lists. Maybe the headquarters could also be infiltrated by other players who could then steal data or even money, which could allow for some really cool PvP. Speaking of PvP, a lot of the concept images that were showing characters with weapons. These were either security officers, but also criminals. And this makes sense because in the future, green zones will be gone. Armistice zones will become a thing of the past, and the game simulation will be able to handle security on its own. Right now, of course, it's not possible because of the state of the servers, but in the future it will be, because servers will no longer be saturated, as they will be solely focusing on the areas where players are located, so we should expect them to be responsive and very effective at maintaining the law and order. Another type of commercial area will be restaurants, which I know sounds trivial, but food and thirst is already something that is a reality in Star Citizen, and it can be a little bit annoying, especially if you are busy in an operation that requires your full attention, like an infiltration mission, or maybe like going to Jump Town, for example. The last thing you want to do is to remove your helmet to quench your thirst or fill your stomach. So I hope that these restaurants, especially the high-end ones, which of course will be more expensive, will offer food that will provide with players some useful buffs that would then greatly reduce the need to eat and drink over a certain period of time. This would entice players to actually eat at these restaurants, and then would offer a realistic ways to provide players with buffs that they would then benefit for the gameplay that they would have chosen to engage in. And we're not just going to get building interiors, but we will also get what will be under these buildings, which won't necessarily get stuck to what's under the structure of the buildings themselves. Those buildings will come with their foundations and sewage system, and some of the most important ones will be connected to underground transit systems, which makes sense because Prime, for example, the main landing zone on Terra, is scheduled to have a very impressive transit system. But this could also give the chance to Cloud Imperial Games developers to flesh out some of the lines that already exist on Lorville, New Babbage, Area 18, and Horizon. The underground areas will also provide players with perfect infiltration opportunities. Remember that security will be roaming all over the cities of these secured landing zones, so it is likely that if players want to engage in violent activities, they will have to make their way into the city via the outskirts of the city and find their way around the city via the sewers with a ground vehicle like a hoverquad or a dragonfly, complete their mission, and then find their way out the way they entered. It will be difficult, but it will bring the dungeon style of gameplay that Star Citizen is lacking right now. So, there you have it, guys, how Star Citizen Alpha 4.0 is going to be far bigger than we could have realized. I thought that these were just going to be about, Pyro or Rune Station, and today we learned that it will be far more than that. And this reminds me of how we moved from Star Citizen Alpha 2.6 to Alpha 3.0, when before we were just stuck to Port Olisar and its surroundings. When all of a sudden the moons of Crusader and the surfaces became available, it was really mind-blowing. It took me months to just realize the scale of that change as I was playing Star Citizen on a daily basis, and this is exactly the sensation that building interiors is going to reproduce, so I am so excited for this. Anyway, guys, that is it for this video, but let me know in the comment section down below, what are you looking forward to the most with those building interiors? How is this going to change how you play Star Citizen? Subscribe to the channel and answer the question to be in for a chance to win a Centurion. Also, we have another ship giveaway on Discord via our video sharing contest, and we have a free answer max. You can also be in by supporting on Patreon or via the YouTube Joy membership program. It really helps this channel a lot. Shout out to Dr. Falbin, Zero Crusher, and Wolfpack Pug. I've been Erad, and I will see you guys later.